There are going to be times when you're trying to use the if function to achieve more than just a simple test on a single set of values. Imagine an organization that wants to provide a bonus for people here based on their job rating and on their status. And imagine their rule is simply this. If your job rating is 4 or 5 and you're full-time, we're going to give you a bonus of $1,000, otherwise not. So a simple if function would begin equal if, left parenthesis. Now we want to test for two conditions here. In no particular order, perhaps the job rating first. Is this greater than 3? That's one way to set. We said 4 or 5, so that would suffice. Now another condition here. And we need to precede this. Now we can type this later, but why not put it in right now? The word and is actually a function, and is a function followed by a series of arguments, 2 or more, separated by commas. And the word and is inclusive, meaning this condition must be true. And the second one we're about to put in as well, if this person is to get $1,000. So the second condition is that the status here be equal to, double quote, full-time. Now the entries in the list there under full-time with a space. Double quote, the upper and lower case is not critical here, but the space between full and time certainly is. Right parenthesis. This is one use of the and function as the logical test for an if. You might be wondering, why can't we put the word and between the two conditions? Well, the reason is that you can have multiple conditions. We might have a third condition, a fourth condition, a fifth condition here separated by commas. And rather than using the word and over and over and over again, we essentially put it in front of the parentheses. If both of these are true, comma, the answer is 1,000. Otherwise, the answer is 0. And once again, in a situation where you've got multiple sets of parentheses, they must be entered or typed properly. And we'll drag this down a few cells to check it out. And you can see that it looks like nobody in this list has these. So we'll change one of these people here to make, for example, this person, make that be a 4. Actually, a few did turn up there. There you go. A little more clearly. You can see what's happening. As we look at this function here, recognize that at certain other points, and let's show just for the effect of how this might be different, we do have a third rule here, to have been here more than 10 years. So the year status here, greater than 10. Now if you think this out a little bit, if you've got the combination here, you've actually got 8 possibilities, and we'll go through all the iterations, but you could have 3 trues and 2 trues and a false, and a true and 2 falses, and so on and so on. That's 8 possibilities when you've got 3 entries here. And only when all 3 of these are true does this person get $1,000. The other word that we use frequently, but certainly not at the same time, but in context, the word or has, as it does in English, a completely different meaning. And now we're saying if any of them are true, in other words, if the job rating is good, or the status is full-time, or the years of service is above 10, you get $1,000. So recopying this list here, looks like everybody wins out here, except the last person on the list maybe depends upon the entries. And once again, you can go through some of the variations, test this again. This person down here, we could play with that one a little bit. Just for sake of argument, here we'll make this person be hourly. Again, these are the little tests you'll do from time to time just to kind of make sure that it's working okay. It'd be do and undo to verify that that appears to be working as well. So or and have a role to play. And there will be times, and it gets a little tricky, where you use ands inside of ors. Suppose once again this organization changes its mind and says the following. We're going to give you a bonus here for one of 2 major reasons. So here's the or. The first reason is you've got a good job rating. The second reason is if you don't have a good job rating, we'll check to see if you've got a combination of being full-time and you have enough years of service. So here we'll put the word and in, and this is an and inside of an or. If your status is full-time and your years of service is this, and one more parenthesis here to match the green left parenthesis up here. So that's certainly tricky, and when you're doing this yourself and it's your own data, it certainly makes sense, and yet you have those little doubts until you try this, and I'm going to put it in here and recopy it, and we can take a look at some of these here. So here and there, you'll see situations that look at first like they should work. Not that one, but this person here has a good enough status, but not a good job rating, has enough years. So once again, looking at just this line here, we said if one of two conditions is true, you got a good job rating. This person doesn't have that. What's the other possibility? A combination of full-time and enough years of service. Now in this case here, this one should work, and it does. So we see that, once again, these are the kind of things that instill a certain amount of pride in tackling these and making them work. And yet a few days later, you come back and look at them. You're not always sure you got it right. So you have to kind of think of that a little bit. And certainly when it is your own data, you've got that edge that helps you. But don't overlook these possibilities. A third possibility in all these is the word not, which I try, pardon the pun, not to use. But you can use this here. And I wouldn't use in this case really like this, but just to show you that it can be. Sometimes it might be slightly more efficient to say, okay, if it's not the case that your job rating is greater than 3, if that's not the case, we're going to give you 0 here, otherwise 1,000. So that's the reverse logic, but it does give us answers here. In other words, the only people who get bonuses here are those with 4s or 5s, but using the logic this way invariably seems to be a little more awkward to understand. And some of these you might see in older uses of Excel, or maybe in formula-intensive worksheets someone decide to say, well, I'll take the most common use and get it out of the way first. As if there's some time lapse here, but do be aware that you might see that and it might make some sense here and there, although I think rarely, to be used in the same context with an if function.